This is question 11 of the Multimedia Half Yearly. Suggest a file format that would be appropriate for the video on the page and justify its use. So this relates to a scenario, which is that a band is promoting a special event and wish to create a website that is separate from their current website in order to create hype around the event. They want to include a Twitter feed, video updates and ticket purchases, but want all of this to appear on one splash page. So the first thing we need to realise that obviously the video is going to be used for a website. Then if we look at the question, there's a couple of things that we need to look for. So first of all, you need to suggest a file format that would be appropriate. So file formats that are appropriate here are basically things like MP4 or FLV. You might be able to get away with MOV as long as you justified it correctly, but these two would be the main two. Now, the other thing is that you need to justify its use. So you need to give reasons. One reason really isn't enough here. You need to give multiple reasons. The reason why one reason is not really enough is that you could say that MP4 is good quality, but so is AVI. So you need to give out a lot more fleshed out response than just one reason. So let's have a look at some of the responses. This is the first one. So straight away you'll notice the first thing is that he states that MP4 is an appropriate file format. So straight away he's suggested a file format. What I found is that a lot of people are going, the file format that would be most appropriate for this video on the website that the band is promoting, that they want to have one splash page. So basically what you're doing is just repeating the question and there's no added information around it. It looks beautiful, but this one gets straight to the point. The answer is MP4. Be careful about things like MPEG because there's different types of MPEG. So MP3, for example, doesn't actually cater for video. So therefore, MPEG as it stands is incorrect. So it has to be MP4. Now let's look at what it says. Would be an appropriate file format because it has a small file size and yet has good quality. So there's two reasons there. It's also playable on most browsers. So we need to make sure there that we've got three clear reasons. It's a small file size while still maintaining good quality and it's playable on all browsers. So all of those are good responses. Let's look at this one. I would suggest the file format of the videos to be MP4. So again, it's just right there. This is because MP4 can be accessed by many different devices. Well, yes, but so can things like AVI. Any Ogg Vorbis, so basically you can have lots of different videos that are accessed by different devices. It also doesn't say anything in terms of access about this being on the web. That's an important thing. If you have this video format on the internet, for example, so if you talked about standardization of browsers or standardization of file format, as opposed to just saying many different devices, it might have been worth more. In this case, he gets 1 mark for the MP4. So basically, the MP4 was the good response here. If we look at this one, this is one of those pretty flowery ones. If they want to create a live running video on show new videos on their splash screen, then RTSP they've suggested as a answer, and we'll get to that in a second, is the correct format to promote new content without, so basically everything here that's underlined up until this point. So if we put a bracket around here and a bracket around here, okay, all of that is actually just additional, what we call waffle. So there's not any additional information there aside from RTSP, which we'll talk about in a second. If this had been correct, there would have been 1 mark there, but all of this extra beautiful live running video, showing you videos that's on the splash screen, all of that doesn't answer the question, so it actually gives you no marks. It's related to the question, but a lot of it's just repeated from the actual scenario. So it doesn't add information to the question, it won't give you any marks. The next bit here, having the trouble to do it manually, is very unclear about what it actually means here. So I wouldn't have even given this any marks for a justification, even if it probably would have been very close. I might have given it justification if this was correct. I might have given it 1. But RTSP is not a file format. It actually asks specifically for file formats, not for, in this case, this is a streaming format. So if we have a look at this question, as the band is aiming for Maya hype, i.e. a larger audience and MP file 4, so we've got the answer there, file format is most favourable. So again, this section here really doesn't add any information aside from MP4. We could have just said MP4 is the file format. The reason that this is concerning is that you get a certain amount of lines to answer the question to the correct depth. So the depth is really important. And when you're taking up space for this beautiful language, then you're sacrificing the depth elsewhere. So let's have a look at what else it got. So it got the correct answer here for MP4, so there's already 1 mark. Okay. Although the quality is average, well, quality of an MP4 actually is very good, unless you're saying that the quality is quite good compared to the file size. So the file size is smaller, however, the quality is quite good. So that's not really correct. It is multi-compatible. Just be careful of the words multi-compatible. I don't think that that's actually a word. However, I can understand what it's trying to say, that it's compatible with different browsers. And then they've gone on, MP4 is accessible on all, okay, so they've said that it's accessible on all internet browsers, including portable devices. So things like FLV, for example, sometimes aren't supported on things like Mac. So it does give an answer and it does give a justification. However, the justification, as I said earlier, isn't enough if you're only talking about one reason. The reason being that it's just not enough depth. In this case, if you had have said the quality is average in comparison to the file size, which is quite small, or if you had have said it's compatible on all different, including portable devices, whereas something like FLV, which is another option, is not, then that might have pushed it up to 2. It's almost a 2, but it's not quite. So one of the things that you've got to realise is that when we're marking it, we want to be able to, for the HSC markers to go straight away, that is a 2. That's clearly a 2, there's no question about it, because when they're marking those little bits and pieces, they add up.